that I'm at, sorry, I see that I'm at the top. I'm here. I'm actually just waiting for Leonard Ursaki, an artist who is interested in this project.
Perfect, thanks. So for everyone that's just joining us and getting settled in, if you want to introduce yourself on the chat with your name, affiliation, and preferred pronouns, that would be great. We are going to get started in just a sec. Okay, I think this is a perfect group to start with. So why don't I go ahead and get started. Aria, really quickly, I'm going to make you co-host just so that you can let folks in as I go through the presentation. Perfect. All right, great. I can see there's still a lot of folks trickling in, but we do want to get started because we only have an hour. So hi, everyone. Good to see you all again. My name is Liz Valladares. I am the Community Outreach Manager for the New York, New Jersey Harbor and Estuary Program. We're putting this together in hopes that we create some shared understanding behind City of Lauderdale, and we also want to encourage you all to participate as part of this year's programs. So I wanted to just give you a quick overview first of what you can expect today. We do only have an hour, but we are hoping to cover a lot. And there's going to be some really great information shared with you all today. We'll get started first by just providing a quick overview about City of Lauderdale. If you're not too familiar with it as an initiative, what goes into City of Lauderdale every year. We'll also get to talk a little bit about how local artists have already incorporated a lot of those same messages that we try to share with the public as part of City of Lauderdale into their creative expression and their creative art installations. So we'll be able to hear about some of their wonderful work. And then we'll also get to hear about some of the In Your Neighborhood groups that have already done that for the past couple of years. So we have a really wonderful couple of people who are going to talk a little bit more about how they've managed to incorporate a lot of this year's theme into previous In Your Neighborhood events already. And then we do have some time for discussion where we can share ideas or we can ask each other questions. The goal behind this discussion portion is really to learn from one another and participate in the exchange and flow of ideas and suggestions on how we can incorporate more of that climate art theme this year into our programs. And then we'll just wrap up with some of the major deadlines and things that you should be aware of coming up in the next couple of weeks and few months. So with that, I'm really excited to share that this year's theme for City of Lauderdale will be focusing on climate art. And again, this info session is really going to be focused on sharing ways where we could work together as part of that and incorporate that theme a little bit more. So to get started, if you're not too familiar with City of Lauderdale, we are now on the 15th year of celebrating this wonderful day every year on the second Saturday of every July. It's really a free harbor-wide day organized by the folks at the Waterfront Alliance, by the New York, New Jersey Harbor and Estuary Program, and dozens of other really wonderful environmental stewardship organizations, whether they be public agencies or community-based groups, nonprofits as well. They really get together to share and raise awareness about the risk we all face from sea level rise and climate change, but also to celebrate our resilient nature, right? Especially in these difficult times where we face a lot of extreme weather and other climate change impacts. It really is a day for us to just come together, celebrate our 1,600 miles of coastline, and to raise awareness together about the action that we can take in the face of climate change. So City of Lauderdale is really made up of two major components. One of them is Art at the Blue Line. I'm not going to go too much into detail about this because Aria will spend some time doing that. But it is a part of City of Lauderdale, and it's going to be back at the Seaport District district this year, and it's going to be focused on creating awareness about climate change through climate art. And again, Aria will go into more detail about that. But another big part of City of Water Day is the In Your Neighborhood component. And that's where dozens of organizations throughout our harbor get together to participate on this region-wide celebration, which again takes place on the second Saturday of every July. And in this year, it will be Saturday, July 16th. So what we do is here as part of In Your Neighborhood is we try to bring opportunities closer to home, closer to our local waterfront. A lot of groups sign up to host an In Your Neighborhood event, which is where folks sign up to create free public programs for their communities. So whether it be a rowing event, a shoreline cleanup, whether it be scening or water quality testing. If it has to do with water, if it has to do with resilience, if it has to do with educating the public, we've seen it and as part of our In Your Neighborhood events. And so we're going to go into a little bit more detail about how you can apply to sign up to become one of these wonderful groups. Just know that, there's a lot of different ways you can become involved. And so we hope to cover some of those ways today. So I mentioned that the theme of this year's City of Water Day is climate art, right? And using the power of the creative arts to help us address the climate crises and educate our communities. We really want to encourage all of our participating organizations this year to try to find ways to incorporate this into their programs, right? So we want to be able to create a space where our organizations and our local artists can talk, can learn from one another, and really identify ways where we can engage the public in our communities together. So as part of the In Your Neighborhood program, we do have a registration that's now available. I will add the link to our In Your Neighborhood application on the chat in just a bit after I stop sharing my screen. But you can click that link and read a little bit more about our program. If you would like to learn a little bit more, feel free to just get started with the application. You don't have to complete it now. You still have lots of time to kind of find ways on how you might want to get involved. So please do not feel like you have to complete the application right away. But I did just want to share some helpful information that you'll also find in that form. And that's that our grants this year to support In Your Neighborhood programs will range between $1,000 to $4,000 for participating in your neighborhood groups. Just remember to apply by June 8th if you are interested in that funding. And as part of those funds, you can essentially use those funds for any activities related to In Your Neighborhood programs. We really leave that up to you. If you want to use it to produce banners or materials that you can send your community members with, feel free to do that. In terms of COVID, if you want to kind of just take some of those funds to put it towards like a sanitation station or things like masks, that's completely up to you on how you might want to use those funds. But like every year, we do prioritize and give priority to In Your Neighborhood events that do take place in EJ communities and communities of higher need. And we also, of course, like I mentioned, are prioritizing In Your Neighborhood programs that this year proposed to work with either one or more than one local artist to creatively engage the public as part of City of Water Day. So like I mentioned earlier, our grants this year range between $1,000 to $4,000. We are trying to make sure that the higher end of those grants really goes to those collaborations where the In Your Neighborhood group is working with a local artist or more than one, understanding that there's going to be a lot of more planning involved there and a little bit of more work. So again, I will add the link to that registration in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to go through it and then email me at a later time, or feel free to also do so on the chat. And so in addition to those grant opportunities, these are benefits that all In Your Neighborhood groups can get regardless of whether you're funded or not. If you submit an application to join us and to host an In Your Neighborhood program, your events will be posted on our interactive map, which will be hosted on our website. When you're filling out the application, you're essentially giving us all the really great details that we need to share this with other community groups, to share it with the public, to share it in our newsletter, sometimes even the radio, and other forms of media. So please do take time as you're filling out that application. And if any details change later on, feel free to go back and make those edits, or email me and let me know. But these are just one of the benefits that In Your Neighborhood groups get. Again, they get to share their events on our interactive map. Partners also get a partner toolkit, which includes really great communication tips and messages, mostly takeaway messages, so that they can promote their events, so that they can share it with their community. They're as easy as just copy and pasting, so that you can use those messages on your social media channels, again, to promote your programs. And lastly, by signing up to host an event, you are joining a really great network of partners that are doing amazing work all around the region. And you get to be part of that, and you get to learn, and you get to grow with us as we continue this journey. And so with that, I know that was really quick. Again, we kind of want to save most of the time to have an open discussion with you all and share our ideas. If you have any questions, I'll be on the chat. But with that, I'll let Aria go into more about the Art at the Blue Line portion of City of Water Day. So go ahead when you're ready.
Hi, everybody. I am Aria Cochran, the Senior Communications Manager at the Waterfront Alliance, and this is our 15th year with City of Water Day. So I'm going to spend a few moments talking about Art at the Blue Line. If I can share my screen. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. It's been a minute. So City of Water Day, can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, as Liz said, City of Water Day this year is going to be July 16th. We're super excited about it. And part of City of Water Day for the past 2 years has been Art at the Blue Line. So the Blue Line is the 100-year mark for the rising tide for our region. And so 2 years ago, we decided to institute a climate art exhibit in the Seaport that really brings attention to that high water line, that blue line, hence Art at the Blue Line. Basically, the Art at the Blue Line is a really great exhibit that features multiple artists from the region creating art, different types of art around, bringing awareness to climate change and the climate crisis. In a moment, I'll go through some past examples of climate artists that we've worked with to kind of help inspire those artists or creatives considering applications for the Art at the Blue Line exhibit. It will be in the Seaport, and it'll run for roughly 2 to 3 weeks, starting on City of Water Day, July 16th. So this is just as Liz was talking about with In Your Neighborhood grants. Art at the Blue Line is also an RFP process that will have grants for the artists who want to participate in creating some specific art for this event. So kind of project description, as I mentioned, is a featured component of City of Water Day. It's a climate focused art exhibit in the Seaport, and it gives really the visitors an opportunity to inspire, inform, engage the public about the urgencies of the climate crisis, using intersecting themes of coastal resilience, waterfront access, and the region's maritime culture and history. So real quick, I'll just go through some examples of past year's climate art. So one was Waves by Kemal Ware, which features a lot of interesting aspects to it. If you guys were able to attend a couple years ago, they also did a really great art walk that talked through the connected history between Black people and the Indigenous people, and how the Seaport surrounding areas were developed using resources that benefited from those enslaved people. Another example is 365, a durational performance with the sea by Sarah Cameron Sunday. This was actually a projection that was put up in the Seaport that showed the rising water lines through video. It was very cool. Sarah came out and talked about her experience in filming these at locations across the world that were threatened by rising sea levels. We Are the Asteroid by Justin Bryce Gariglia was an LED message board system that brought attention to ecological issues. So some of the different signs said things like, here you can see here, global warming at work. So it really kind of catches people off guard so that they can bring awareness to the climate crisis. Shoreline Change was another video projection installation with 6 experimental documentary films that focused on the NYC waterfront area. These were projected actually onto the side of the waiver tree last year. So again, you're getting to see different examples of how people have used different types of art for Art at the Blue Line. I'm very excited. After I wrap up, we'll hear from Lynn Newman, the director at Artichoke Dance Company. They also were one of the great performers last year who did Water Rises, a series of dance performances that physicalize the movement and energy of water through choreography. They also performed in recycled plastic trash-in costumes. So very, very cool. I'm sure you guys have seen some of the pictures from these performances across our websites and social media marketing materials. And then finally, we also had the Maritime Library last year, which was a floating library constructed in the form of historic New York harbor barges that was also found in the seaport. So really what this RFP will include is the project opportunities. It's really open to anybody, individual artists, collaborative artists, really creatives, anybody who wants to create something, create some art that will bring awareness to climate change, coastal resilience, environmental and social justice. We are, of course, through the art, once the our projects are submitted through their proposals, they will be reviewed by a group of art jurors. We have a very special selection of jurors this year that's very exciting, and we can talk more about that later in the discussion. But those projects that prioritize these themes will be most likely selected. But these artworks will be amplified through our social, through the website and newsletters, marketing, and then of course at Art at the Blue Line on the 16th, and then the following weeks that the art is going to be available for the public. So yeah, that's Art at the Blue Line. And if you guys have any questions, we can definitely answer those during the discussion portion. I'll also put in the chat the information about the RFP. There's a lot more details in the actual RFP about specifics for the types of art, what you can include, you know, grant opportunities and all of that. So please be sure to check out that document when we link it below. But that is it. Liz, I'll turn it back to you.
Great, thanks. Well, I don't know if you want to introduce Lynn since
Oh, yes. Sorry, I got so excited in my presentation, but I did mention, Lynn, you guys saw the pictures from Artichoke Dance Company, those really great trash and dance performances. But we've got Lynn here today who can actually talk about her process of going through the RFP application, putting together the performance, and actually participating in City of Water Day. So Lynn, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Thanks for having me. So last year we were featured performers at the Art of the Blue Line, but we also did an In Your Neighborhood project as well. So we participated in various ways. Artichoke Dance Company has been working around waterways since about 2008. And particularly plastic pollution in the water, but then also a lot of flooding issues and climate change issues in regards to sea level rise. We actually started, I see that Pam Pettijohn is here. We started we started our whole work out in Coney Island and Manhattan Beach about 15 years ago. So great to see so many faces here. So I'm thrilled that the theme this year is climate art. For those artists on the call, I would also like to stress to us all the climate action part. And just kind of scrolling through who is here, there's a lot of folks in kind of the activist realm that would be really great partners. So for our In Your Neighborhood project last year, we did a performance tour that combined an environmental justice walking tour with performances in and around Gowanus. And a couple partners that we had are here today. Gowanus Dredgers was one. Gowanus Canal Conservancy. So those partnerships really help us reach bigger and broader audiences, and also to embed some activism into our projects, which I guess from a personal standpoint, I feel is really important. So I encourage people to do that because like that's what we're here for, right? We're all concerned. So for our Art at the Blue Line project, we had conceived a series of pop-up performances to happen around the seaport, but we also did a couple on Titanic Park. And I'll talk about that a little bit because I found the audiences to be very different. I mean, it's 2 blocks away, right? The South Street Seaport, as we all know, is very open. Titanic Park is this little park that's next to a bus stop. And it actually turned out to be very interesting. The bus stop was a very active space. So as we're preparing, and we started actually our performance on the street and then came into the park, we found that we drew a lot of people from waiting for the bus into and the performances were only like 5 minutes. So 8 minutes each. And then we'd repeat one and then do one somewhere else. I guess I encourage think about the whole of the space of the South Street Seaport because of its proximity to water and it's a stunning kind of backdrop, but there are a lot of spaces, and even you saw in the images, like to really think about for the artist, think about where your work would fit and what it's in relation to what it's speaking to, and then also like how are you going to reach different audiences with different locations. It's also something we really think about. So yeah, our work Water Rises started looking at kind of like the molecular nature of water after Hurricane Sandy hit, and one thing that I found very interesting was our perception of water moving is really the molecules kind of bumping up against each other, and then water gains energy that way. So I kind of use that as an impetus for the movement, invention and choreography, to illuminate how water gains momentum and energy, and thus it's rising and gaining force. So that was I tend to work from scientific information. That's how I generate my work. But yeah, what else? I guess I'll put my website and also my email in the chat if anybody wants to reach out with questions or ideas. Yeah, one thing that we have been working with is and a question that I've been asking for some years is, the thing that I feel like we have as artists is an audience that is like on our side. So how can we take that, those moments and turn them into activist moments? And one thing that we did around our Art of the Blue Line and our In Your Neighborhood project, because plastic pollution is part of our platform, there was the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act, which is a national bill, had just been proposed. And so we developed call scripts and distributed those to the audience. And when we did actually the performance tours in Gowanus, we all took out our cell phones at some point in the tour and like called the senator. I mean, it was Saturday and Sunday, so nobody answered the phone, but I love to imagine like they came in on Monday morning and there's like 35 or 50 messages like, we support the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act, you know. So I encourage everybody to think about how, and artists and like how do you use your platform and your In Your Neighborhood events to help spur the activism that's so much needed to make the change that we need. So happy to share further strategies that we've tried, and just feel free to reach out, and thanks for having me here.
Thanks so much, Lynn. Yeah, it's every time I look at those pictures, I get goosebumps because it's just stunning. So with that, I would love to just bring one of our In Your Neighborhood groups to share about some of the ways they've incorporated these creative ways to engage the public in our communities. And so Owen or Brad, I'm not sure which one of you is going to do the overview, but feel free to just jump right in when you're ready.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's starting to share. Nothing has come up yet on my end, but there we go. Now it's
Great.
working.
My name is Owen Foote. I'm here with Brad Vogel, the captain of this organization. We've been advocating for climate change of the Gowanus Canal for the last 23 years, most notably the cleaning of the waterway, but also the ability to actually use the climate in the city of New York has been paramount to our mission statement, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I've just prepared a few slides of some of, it's not, there we are. Some of the activities that we just did last year. We have a tour of the neighborhood that speaks to where the historic creeks used to be. And guess what? During Hurricane Sandy, the creeks came back, and there's still remnants of some of the watermarks and challenges that are facing. And it's a very positive educational tour. This is something we do on a regular basis, but last year we combined it with City of Water Day as a theme to once again reinforce how climate change is so critical to a community, and what to do next. As many of you might know, right now at the Department of Buildings, there's approximately 6,000 apartments under review, potentially starting construction later this year. And what does that do for the nature of a community? Moving on, another activity that we do monthly is check on the health of oysters. Most of the folks on this call know how essential reintroduction of oysters is to harbor flooding and climate flood mitigation measures. And that's an activity that we combined with City of Water Day to once again just refocus that on a different, more scientific end of the game. And then, as you know, many on the call, when we pull the cage out of the water, sometimes other critters come out with it, and so that's always great fun to check out and see. Just to reinforce it, these are not oysters for consumption, but as oysters grow, they do filter and improve harbor water quality. And then they're also the base element for many of our harbor creatures that we want to see thrive in New York City. Another regular tour that we do monthly is our street art walk, but here we also talked about street art and how climate change is part of that. And particularly if you're in a neighborhood community that regularly floods, why not have on the flood level a space for displaying art? Typically when it floods in New York City, we'll be notified, hey, the flood's coming, or maybe the flood doesn't reach the height of art on the walls. You know, our boathouse is designed to flood. I doubt we would ever get flood high enough to reach our artwork that we display regularly on our walls. And why would we change our waterfronts to a community of parking and garage space rather than street front gallery display space, working spaces and things like that? And that's what that spoke to. And since this year's theme's climate art, perhaps that's also something to say, I don't know, pop up in some of these spaces along the shoreline to see how we could do ad hoc installations. I'm not advocating for anything without permit, wink, wink, but it could be a lot of fun to see odd installations along the shoreline of the Gowanus or anywhere else that we bike ride the Brooklyn shoreline all the time. Moving ahead, this year we may be talking to how our access to our waterway is being removed as is developed. At first glance, this looks like perhaps that's a great way to get on and off the water until you realize you'd have to climb all over those plants, and there's no way for these kayakers in the water to just float up to the shore. And right where you see that subway overpass in the distance is some of Brooklyn's finest bagels. Whether or not they're infused with the scent of the Gowanus, I can't say, but I would guarantee you'll walk away a happy customer. So very easy interventions. And we would be walking through talking about those interventions. And obviously, I'm not an artist, I'm an architect, so there's nothing artistic about this intervention, but it could very well be something artistic as well. And so I would encourage folks to reimagine where your city meets your sea or your river or your shoreline. What kind of ways can you improve it to not only allow these hungry kayakers to land and experience this new development that you see proposed on the left, but also engage and embrace with their climate and their community. So I'll throw it open for questions, or I'll pass it back to you guys. Thank you.
Actually, Owen, if I
Sure.
could, this is Brad Vogel. I'm the captain of the Gowanus Dredgers. And I just wanted to say that something that we've certainly found on City of Water Day for several years now is that you need to give people a reason to come down to the waterfront that they otherwise have. And so, things that we've done successfully is make something bigger, something more unusual, something that is striking, that captures people's attention and gets them to engage. Because it's only once people are engaged and drawn to the waterfront that they really become constituents, in the sense of waterways literally get constituents, just like a politician would, who will support that waterway, who will take action on behalf of that waterway. And so that's a big part of why we as a canoe club are out here engaging with the waterfront in all these different ways. And one way we did in September of 2021 for City of Water Day was we got a 15-person brass band out on a fleet of canoes and a raft, and it was insane. It was amazing. It was something that people needed at that point in the pandemic. There was sort of that little lull, if you remember, in the early fall of 2020. And we had people out on the bridges, distanced, but like all along the esplanades. And people were crying, people were ecstatic, because there was this need after this. So many people said New York City is dead, quote unquote. And that event felt like a punch right back into that statement saying, hell no, we are here, we are engaged with our waterway, we're going to find creative ways to be involved and engaged with improving water access and making sure people understand about water quality and climate change. So first and foremost, give people a reason to come down and then go from there. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Incredible, stories and some really helpful tips. Thank you to Brad and Owen, again, with the Gowanus Dredgers, for sharing some of the ways they've incorporated, these wonderful creative components into their City of Water Day program. I did just want to give another partner a really quick chance to also share some of the creative ways they've been involved in sharing some of that work. So Brian, whenever you're ready, we do have to move quickly, but I still wanted to give you some time to share your wonderful experience as part of City of Water Day in your neighborhood.
All right, cool. Thank you, Liz. I'll try to share the screen right here. Okay. Okay, does everyone see this?
It's still, there we go. Yeah, now it just popped up.
All right, cool. All right, yeah, so my name is Brian Sandilands. I'm an artist. I'm on the Passaic River CAG as a board member. I make my bread and butter as a fabricator, a professional sculptor. Worked on lots of public monuments. I did my master's thesis on the history of the built environment of the Passaic River Basin, which involves a lot of I guess architecture, urban planning, history of industry, and most especially history of the labor movement. We're working out of Gardenship Arts, which is in Kearney Point, in South Kearney. If you look at a map, it's the industrial peninsula in between Newark and Jersey City. A big old shipbuilding warehouse that's kind of been overtaken by artists, and we participated in City of Water Day for 2 years. This year is a flyer from our second year, last year. Right here, these are just kind of some quotes for a flyer for another event I did about the roles of artists in society. I'll just read one or two to keep it moving. But Picking the one says, whenever I become discouraged, I lift my spirits by remembering the artists are on our side. I mean, those poets and painters, singers and musicians, novelists and playwrights who speak to the world in a way that is so impervious to assault because they wage the battle for justice in a sphere which is unreachable by the dullness of ordinary life. But remember what Pablo Picasso said, art is a lie that makes us realize the truth. Art moves away from reality and invents something that may be ultimately more accurate about the world than what a photographer can depict. And one of the earlier presenters kind of touched on the basis of art as a tool or a medium for communicating the facts about the climate crisis, but also as a tool for us to organize horizontally together as a community. There's this one, he's an artist, his name is Michael Layton. He developed these new theories of geometry. His profession is in the cognitive sciences. And he basically said that art is the ultimate memory store. We subconsciously take from art all this feelings, emotions, histories, and everything, which cannot possibly be communicated via spoken language. It cannot be human history that cannot be retained within our own memories. And art kind of serves as this like USB backup drive for us to access all of this history and everything. I butchered that a little, but just to present some of the work we did, let's, oh, here we go. All right, so are you guys seeing the video?
It's not popping up,
No?
Brian. No.
Uh,
We could always
um,
share it on the chat if you want to share the link with us.
Yeah, I'll share a link in the chat, but basically we have
Perfect.
a video of stuff we did from the one day. And going to our second year of participation, I'll go have like 2 minutes.
Yeah, we have 2 minutes to wrap things up.
Okay, yeah. So we came up with a lot of things we wanted to do, and this is all in the context of New Jersey. We have the history of the Fluxus movement and the happenings in Rutgers. We have Robert Smithson with his landmarks, with the land art, with the monuments, the Passaic. There's actually a good deal of film screenings we wanted to do. One of our resident artists, Warner Wada, he put together a documentary, Muskrat John, on this guy, Muskrat John, who actually made his living trapping muskrats and other mammals for food in the Hackensack Meadowlands that people ate. Black Water, a documentary by John Corers, the more recent documentary which came out, the Sacrifice Zone. There's an NPR brief, The Dirty Truth About the Other Jersey Shore, Wheeler Antabanez, Weird New Jersey fame, lots of footage of him on the Passaic. We ultimately, for organizational purposes, didn't do any film screenings, but we had a Newark artist, Anchor West. He brought a giant 15 by 20 foot mural he made in conjunction with Newark students, where basically they made a map of Newark at the time and kind of projected with these elementary school students how they wanted to their city to turn out. So there was that. We wanted to do a Wikipedia edit-a-thon. We had to scrap that. We had a mural which we started in the first year. We added to it in the second year. You can see that in the video. We did a little bit of a community mapping project. I did some live art sculpture type thing. I made a map of the area of Newark Bay that people can then come and kind of put pins on and little locations and everything. And yeah, we're looking forward to build it up, do new things for next year. I'll see if I can add one more thing. Yeah. Oh, and we had a pop-up library. So we had a a bunch of different participants, basically bring in all books, literature, newspaper articles that they can. We created this library space that essentially people can come in and peruse all the different topics of it. Me being a member of the Passaic River CAG, I have more easy access to all of these documents from federal agencies, which I printed out and had people look, and people were able to look over. And yeah, I'll
Thanks
keep
so
it
much,
at that for now.
Brian. Yeah, I know that sounds great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really love the connection between the community engagement side of things and the Superfund side of things, right? That's a really creative way to involve the community into those conversations, which can, for a lot of times, be so technical and, people tend to tune out, but I'm so glad that you were able to make the connection. So thank you. Thank you for your time, Brian. Yeah, if you can send me the link, I will share it as a follow-up as well, as along with our slide deck. But if you want to add it on the chat for now, that'd be great too. So thank you so much for yeah, go ahead.
I can add it to the chat, but I think I figured out how to share the screen. It's a 1 minute and 15-second video. I can play it now. If not, I'll just add the link into the chat.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do only have an hour, Brian, so we are running out of time. We really do want to just spend the next portion of this meeting to just share ideas and, again, learning from one another. But yes, I will share your slides, and if you can just share that link with us in the chat, that would be greatly appreciated. So I'll let Arya kick off the discussion portion as part of this meeting. Again, if you can all provide your feedback on the chat, if you have any questions as well for us, we'd be happy to get that started and going. So go ahead, Arya.
Yeah, so as Liz mentioned, we want to kind of open this up for discussion now and hear from everybody here. We've got community groups, we've got artists and creatives. So, one of our goals for this year is to encourage collaboration between both the artists and the creatives and the organizations themselves. So what can we do to help both groups learn from each other? How can we help facilitate and improve communications between these groups? We've started with this meeting here, but what else would you guys like to see? What else do you need to make these connections?
And just really quickly, Brian, do you mind if you just stop sharing your screen so that we can go back to gallery view? Perfect, thank you. So sorry for the interruption, Arya. You might want to repeat the question again to the—
Yeah, no worries. The question is for everybody here, how can we help to facilitate connections between these community groups and these artists? We've talked a lot about different in your neighborhood options. We've talked about the Art at the Blue Line. We've talked about types of climate art. So how can we help you guys start to make that happen? This is open discussion, so feel free to just unmute yourself and start chit-chatting, giving ideas, asking questions. You're more than welcome.
And I guess since art is being centralized in this year's City of Water Day, I wonder if there's any kind of repository that could be created for the community organizations of like artists that are working around water. It's another step for somebody, but it's like for those who like don't have an artist that's working in their neighborhood that they know of, like so that they could reach out and be like, can we do something together? I don't know if that's,
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion, Lynn. Yeah, I wonder if maybe like the first step to doing that is, as a follow-up to this meeting, is leaving the conversation open for you all, right? And to also let us know if you want to be, one, added as part of that list, and two, if you have any suggestions on who we can add to the list, right? So that we can send them future announcements so that we can keep them in the know about this, and so that they are aware about City of Water Day, right? Because even though it is a huge initiative, there are still a lot of people who don't know too much about it. So we'd love to make that connection. I don't know if anybody else has any other thoughts, whether, when it comes to creating this almost like database of artists, or if they have any other suggestions on how we can improve that communication between our in your neighborhood groups and local artists as well.
There's a comment in the chat from Heather. She said, I think we are most interested in identifying tools to amplify existing partnerships between water and arts groups and the creative output. And how can we measure impacts of the observed art performance, either in terms of increased awareness or changed behavior? It's a great question. Anybody have any thoughts?
I have one thought on that. So one possible type of output that can be done is to do have image recognition or augmented reality art. So you can have art as a mural or a poster or anything that's in the physical public realm that has a QR tag that can be scanned by patrons, participants, viewers, etc. And you might not be able to measure how impactful it is, but you would be able to see who is visiting that site via clicking on the link.
That's a great suggestion.
yeah.
Also, would allow for people to, have follow-up resources and that would be included in that URL from the QR code. Great suggestion.
Yeah, no, I think that's wonderful. That actually reminds me about this project that it's not local by any means. It was a local artist from Texas that put this project together, but he essentially wanted to record the way people felt when they were near a waterway. So he added QR codes and these little signs all throughout waterfront parks. I forget exactly where in Texas it was, but he did this in various locations. I think there might have been more than 100 different sites. And so he had an app developed that would essentially allow you to take a picture of the site that you were in and at the same time record the feelings that you were having by sitting at that moment, by sitting in front of this place. And he was able to create this word cloud, graphic that basically showed that people felt at ease, that people felt relaxed, that people felt calm, that people felt happy. And so, yeah, I think that's one of the ways, to Brian's point, that maybe we can capture those creative ways, right, on how it really is impacting people without having sort of hardcore numbers involved. Yeah, this is great. Does anybody have any other thoughts? We do have other questions for you all as well, but feel free to jump in if anyone has any other ideas on how to help answer Heather's question or Aria's question about improved communication between groups. So we can move on to the next question, and that's that, we're just really curious to the artists in the room. How do we get the non-traditional creative people to think of themselves as creatives? It's a really wonderful theme, this theme of climate art and creative arts. Not a lot of us, including myself, think of themselves as creative people or artistic by any means. I'm still drawing stick figures. I do not know how to paint. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. So how do you get people like me to think of themselves as creatives, to really enter the space and not really be too scared to participate and do something that's considered creative or artistic? I'd really love to hear your feedback on that.
Yeah, and just to note, we've seen some examples here of physical art, such as murals. We've seen physical art in the sense of dance. We've got video projection, but there's also tons of other types of art. Like Gowanus Dredgers mentioned music, having a big band. The QR codes, digital art is another thing. There's lots and lots of options for what can be considered art and creative. So how do we inspire, artists? How do we inspire people to think that way?
I can jump in here, and proposing this questions to artists is a little bit dangerous and run on and everything. Artists definitely have to, artists in general right now, 2022, we really have to disentangle ourselves from how we've come to be understood and viewed as elitist, and we're in this whole other, strata where as art in the early in the first half of the 20th century was more aligned with the labor movement, the avant-garde. You know, that's not the case anymore. It's art. The art world is largely viewed cynically or otherwise as kind of this, you know, being tied to finance and this financial, the finance industry. You know, art is kind of like a store. Wealthy people purchase art to as an investment, you know, and this is something that artists ourselves have to organize and disentangle ourselves from. I can give other people a chance to, I can speak forever on this, but yeah, I can give other people a chance.
Thanks, Brian.
So I can talk about it a little bit. A lot of or part of what we do is offer opportunities for people to be involved in things at the level they feel comfortable with. A lot of people are like, I don't dance, right? But I'll make a trash and costume, you know, I'll string some bags and do that. So I guess providing multiple opportunities for entry. And I'll give an example. So it was 2019, summer of 2019, we did a festival called Gowanus Visions, and it was really about looking at what the future of Gowanus could be. And as Owen had mentioned earlier, and this is citywide, housing is the housing crisis, and then particularly around Gowanus with the impending rezoning. So one of the things that we did is we had people building their vision of like tiny houseboats, like thinking of what's the future of living in New York City that's potentially going to be underwater. And, you know, Gowanus is a flood zone A area. So people made little model tiny houseboats, and then we floated them in the canal. So, you know, different ways of getting people involved in with like hands-on activities. You know, for dance, we do have this particular piece called Liberate the Earth, that the opening section, it's quite simple, but you know, we've had like 10-year-olds do it up to like 75-year-olds. And you can learn it in like a 1.5-hour workshop, and then they perform it with the company. So there's a lot of different ideas, but I think it's about setting up the structure that makes it approachable and provides some materials and some purposes, right? So it's not like you go create something, because that's intimidating. It's like, well, what am I supposed to do? So it's like, okay, here's the issue, here's the idea, here are the materials, here's somebody that'll help you along. Now let's do this together. So I think structure is important, and then also purpose.
That's really great, Lynn. And that actually kind of leads into our next question, which is to turn it over to the In Your Neighborhood groups in the room. How can these artists who are working on these, you know, great creative ideas reflect their community's vulnerability to climate change in their work? You know, some of the examples we've heard here are people who are very, very involved in activism, but maybe for those artists who are just starting to learn about this, how can they get more involved in your community's specific, you know, needs?
Hello, I can jump in and answer that. I actually have an artist at Rocking the Boat in the Bronx, and I was connected to an artist who's in residence at Wave Hill, and this particular artist makes cyanotypes, sun prints of bodies of water. So, I mean, I think I got lucky and just it came across to me, but if you can connect to the natural space, if you can connect to you know, what people are experiencing or would be with, you know, in terms of climate change, what they would be experiencing in their lives. And maybe not in a negative. I know like climate change often feels very heavy and negative, but, you know, what about just like the beautiful animals and plants and people that are already there?
Yeah, thank you so much. That's great. Yeah, we love having Rock at the Boat participate every year, and we're excited to see what you guys can come up with this year. And not to put Pamela on the spot, but she is also extremely knowledgeable in involving her community and engaging her community. Pamela, I wonder if you have any tips for the artists in the room on, reflecting their community's needs and vulnerability in the face of climate change and some of the things that might have worked for you in the past.
Well, for Coney Island Beautification Project, we were lucky. We have public engagement. So we have workshops with the community and we listen to what their concerns are. We bring information and resources to them. And that's how we've been able to focus our City of Water Day. What were the actual needs of the community? And in the very, very beginning, when we first started with City of Water Day in 2014, we found that after Sandy, people were afraid to go near the water. They have been so traumatized. So just bringing them out and bring them down to the water and having exercises and fun and letting them know there's nothing to be afraid of, but we need to be concerned about the future and how we treat this water. And so we've been lucky. We just listen to the community and we kind of hone in on what their concerns are and we just make it fun.
Absolutely. That's such an important part, right? Making it fun. So I did just want to give anybody else the chance to jump in quickly if you have anything. If not, we can move forward. We can move along. We do have a quick poll for you all that we'd like for you to participate in. But before that, if anybody has anything to add, please feel free to jump in now.
I can say one thing. I think from what has been talked and asked about, it's important to with the creative output, the programming, to not necessarily communicate facts, although that is important. It's as we at Guardianship kind of viewed it, it's important to kind of show and highlight ways that the participants can feel empowered and organized horizontally. So for instance, if we go down a list of the things we have here, just the creation or the directing of people to STEAM curriculum. Someone has to teach that, that's one thing. For the murals that we did, I made stencils. So it wasn't like the artist doing the totality of the mural itself, but participants were able to use stencils themselves, and they kind of had this role in creating it. With respect to sculpture, and this is kind of important post 2020 with all monuments coming down and everything, the people say that sculptures teach history, and that's not really the case. These sculptures that were coming down, they don't teach history, they communicate mythology and structures of power in the built environment. And so it's important for the community, for the artists in the community, to be aware of what structures of power they're conveying with the sculptures that they put in the built environment, so as to kind of imagine different possible community organizations or hierarchies and whatnot. For performance in theater, and again, I can tie this to a New Jersey context, we have the pageant of the Patterson Silk Strike in 1913, all different sorts of other community theaters. These were all productions that in the pageant of the Patterson Silk Strike, the strikers themselves played a part in this production. This was put on at Madison Square Garden. It was a big thing involving artists and everything. But climate theater, if anyone here is an activist, has been exposed to that at rallies and whatnot. That's a way for the community members themselves to be a part of the living theater. Also, there's oral history projects. So having people go out and just record oral histories from people in the community, especially related to the rivers and the bodies of water. And important on this point is that a lot of, in our metropolitan area, the Passaic River, Newark Bay, the Bronx River, etc. A lot of people in our communities don't really have any experience with this. These are just things that we drive over, that's kind of, so how do you bridge that gap and everything?
Thanks, Brian. I do have to move along. All really wonderful points. That's the thing about these meetings, right? Like you want to cover so much useful information, but we really do have to move along. But thank you so much, Brian. If you can just send any follow-up points or suggestions, to us, we'd love to definitely hear it as well. I did just want to quickly do a poll before folks leave. We really just do want to get your feedback on some of the ways we can make this City of Lauderdale, the best that it's ever been. So if you can just quickly answer, especially that first question right there, where it asks you to identify any materials that you might be interested in. If you had to pick two, please let us know. We'd really appreciate your feedback on there. So you should be able to answer. Please go ahead and let us know. Also, please let us know, how likely are you to participate in this year's City of Lauderdale, based on the information that you've heard here today. And again, if you're unsure at this time, please just do be aware that we will be sharing additional information later on that might be able to help you, make a decision on whether you can participate or not. We'd love these ideas that were shared today about coming up with some sort of database, for groups to learn about one another. You can always go to our websites for more information about some of the things that we're doing. And so, there's definitely going to be a lot of resources made available to you that can help you learn a little bit more about how you can participate, for sure. So I'll just give it one more second. Thank you so much all for your feedback. It looks like a lot of people are interested in banners and t-shirts. I'm not surprised, those are my favorite things too. But just to quickly wrap things up, I do just want to say again, thank you so much everyone for being here today. Just stay on the lookout for any emails coming your way related to some RFP deadlines, as well as updated information on our website. If you're interested in just learning more about City of Lauderdale, or if you have any questions, please feel free to reach me at my email, which is shown here on screen. I'll also go ahead and add it on the chat. Just feel free to reach out if you have any questions or, again, any feedback on this. So once again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. I know we are a little bit over time. We do appreciate you sticking around. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at any time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, y'all. See you soon.